Hello and welcome to another edition of Mailbag. What is Mailbag? Well, Mailbag is a feature of the channel where you guys leave lots of comments on the channel and I attempt to answer those comments, or if I can't answer those comments, I throw it out to you guys who have more knowledge on some of this stuff than I do. So let's get into the first mailbag of this session. Remember, like, comment, subscribe to the channel. Go over to Instagram and follow me there. Go over to Facebook, follow me there. That's where the normal notices are. And consider becoming a Patreon. Next comment or question comes from Hans Palender. In response to a new Fantom for a New Year video I did in March 2022. And Hans writes, congratulations for this informative channel, but are you sure about the Fantom-08's keyboard? It's my understanding this is a PHA-4 standard keyboard with escapement and ivory feel, the same used in the FP30 piano and the A88 Mark II keyboard, among others. It has hammer action piano keyboard. Yeah, interesting. I have to think about that. But yeah, thanks Hans for the feedback on the channel, very much appreciated. You are correct, it is a PH-4, which is a lighter keyboard to the monster that was installed in the Fantom-08 key. I haven't played the Fantom, mainly due to the lockdown issues, but I have been told the action is like the original A80 MIDI controller. I have tried the A88 Mark II, and this is a much lighter action. I did think that this was a synth keyboard, but even though it's still weighted, so it will be easier to play for a synth player. Personally, I have enough weighted keyboards, so if this was going to come into the stable, it would be the 76 key edition anyway. Next one comes from the Death Beats. In response to whatever happened to the cigar smoking record bosses video I did in April 2022. And Gary writes, hey mate, I would love to see a vlog of the outside world where you are right now. I think I did this when I was in Morocco, this particular video. Music has changed so much in recent years, I think we might have seen the last of the cigar smoking fat cats. A friend of mine recently became a senior vice president of Warner Music UK, and after a 30-year career working independently as a music manager, responsible for developing some really huge names in the UK and USA, for which he handled everything from their PR to their record deals. He's getting on in years, but he's a very dynamic guy and nothing like old school bosses. Something else that's different in today's music scene is that major labels are using DJs and tastemakers to focus on signing small indie labels as subsidiaries. If a small label is taking off and their music is being played by DJs all over the world, you quite often find a major label will snap them up because they are not able to launch such a brand themselves. Yeah, this is it, isn't it? You know, monopolisation. This happened to a friend of mine whose label that he started at home in Dunstable about 10 years ago was signed to Atlantic Records in the USA for more money than the label could ever make back for Atlantic, which suggests that the major labels might be somewhat confused and desperate these days. Very interesting view. I think where I was coming from with the cigar smoking fat cats is that quite often, you know, they would kind of take the punt and say, well, we haven't got a clue, but let's stick it out anyway. And a lot of really big acts kind of got their break through that sort of, you know, well, let's kind of suck it and see attitude. Whereas now it's all, you know, will it chart? Will it make this? Will it make that? Can we sign the artist? Can we get the airplay? Anyway, basically, I did have some stuff on Facebook which sort of kind of showed the general location where I was in Morocco. Basically, and this is kind of for anybody on the channel, but friends of mine run a boutique hotel in Marrakesh, and it's in the heart of the madness that we know. And over the years, I've got really quite friendly with them because I've been going there for nearly 10 years. you may have seen me playing backgammon with the owner in the evenings quite often, and the staff are friendly, and they call me as Mr. John, or Monsignor John, as they call me. But if you want the authentic Moroccan experience, really you can't go wrong than staying in this place. It is absolutely wonderful. It's in the heart of the Medina, which is the old walled city, and it's great to take you on a. Anyway, going back to the question itself, it's a great take on your situation as you're actually producing and issuing music. The independent labels are the ones that are the chancers and invest in upcoming artists, probably in the way the cigar smoking bosses used to. What I did realise is that the way these independent labels are in essence corporatised. How much freedom do they get once they're acquired? Does the record label brand remain current? It's a really good concept, isn't it? You've got an independent record brand. They kind of are their own boss. They choose which artists they want to represent. They say strike the deal. They push the music out onto the platforms, and they make the decisions on what it is what direction they're trying to take the label in, and trying to keep the label consistent. It does remind me of Motown, where what Motown did in the 60s and 70s, in order to get their artists played, is they actually came up with all these different labels that effectively were Motown, but they were different labels because the radio stations had this policy that would only play, say, 2 of any label on their station per day. So if you wanted to get your acts on the station, you had to have a different label. So Motown effectively had this policy of signing different acts and pushing their records out on different labels so they could get airplay on the radio stations. It's quite ingenious if you think about it, because the radio stations weren't savvy enough to realise what Motown were doing. But there you go. That's a different conversation, I think. But the label distinguishes the record company. Do you remember back when I was DJing? I always remember there was it's still around, Strictly Rhythm, which was a New York label, I think. But they had some of the real funkiest dance grooves that were coming out, were being produced and pushed out. And some of the top producers were working for Strictly Rhythm at the time. And you knew that when you got Strictly Rhythm 12-inch presented to you, it was probably going to be quite a good dance floor filler. A friend of mine used to sort of comment it was dance floor gold, and I probably would agree with him, because for a period of time I don't think they went wrong in terms of the stuff they were pushing out, but they kind of disappeared. I mean, I don't know whether they're still on the dance scene, because I'm way out of that genre now, but they were around for a period of time, and everything that came out was just gold, and then all of a sudden they just kind of disappeared. The way that a big label attacks the market is, in many ways, not relevant to the way that the market has fragmented, and that's kind of quite important. Which is why your DJ and taster process is being undertaken for the dance scene. It's been pretty much the same for years, if I'm honest, because the A&R guys would turn up, badger the DJs in the top clubs to put the 12 inches on of some up and coming group called Knob & Co, or whatever it happened to be. And you quite often would take it off onto a side deck and you'd listen to it. And if it was any good, you might decide you're going to play it during the warm-up session or something like that. But quite often these things that they were trying to push out were just utter pence, and you just give it back to the A&R guy and say, well, maybe later. But if you then go on to sort of the other types of genre, things like rock, country, soul, then the music and the marketing is quite different for those areas. Different audience, different way to consume, so I'm not quite sure that the DJ taster set would kind of work for them. But it's interesting, it's an interesting take, and thanks for the comments, Gary.